The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Brought to you by Macy's Grocery Stores. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Thanks for being with us. It is first and 12. It's first and 10. I mean, that's how we get it started right here. We'll be right off the bat here. First and 12. Your Sunday morning breakdown of the Big 12 the day after. And in a couple of hours here, I guess just short of an hour, we're going to be getting those new rankings from the AP voters. And interested to see how this goes. Although if you're looking at it, with BYU's win over Arizona yesterday, not a lot of movement in a lot of the teams in front of him, Mitch Harper, and so I don't think you're going to get, a huge jump in the rankings, but you're still going to see BYU move up, and at the very least, even if you don't get a bunch of losses in front of you, you still showed the country that on a big noon Saturday kickoff with the folks at Fox and being on Big Fox and being in the middle of the day and everybody watching that thing. My brother from across the country goes, is it really that pretty in Provo right now? I mean, he's also going through like hurricane weather this week, but he looked and he goes, does it really look like that? I said, absolutely. It's 85 degrees. Not going to get the same treatment on Friday, I think, when Oklahoma State comes to town for BYU. But the game that shocked everybody, and by the way, our program brought to you by Macy's. Get the freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your local favorite brands, Macy's Happy Shopping. Utah with the loss at Arizona State, Mitch. We're just absolutely blown away by it. Here's your Utah football breakdown from this week. Let's get right to it.
The Utah Utes post-game analysis.
Utes fall to Arizona State 27-19. They dropped to 1-2 in Big 12 play. Now, before we dive into this, Alex, is this a grand scheme by Utah to just say how strong the Pac-12 used to be by losing to Arizona
that's what they
and
wanted,
Arizona State, and the lone win is against one of the legacy members of the Big 12? I'm just saying. But in all seriousness, Arizona State came out and, look, ASU did not play their best football either. This was and it stretches an ugly football game from both teams, banged up quarterbacks on both sides.
Right.
Yet Arizona State had a little more pop in the backfield with Cam Scadaboo, who had went for 158 yards on the ground, 22 carries, 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 catches for 41 yards. He was everything for the Sun Devils, and there were some questionable decisions late by Kyle Whittingham from fourth downs, and, of course, the Cam Rising situation took the cake in all this. But it was a bit surprising, but this Utah team continues to struggle, and they're falling to new lows this season.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest one was you just know that Cam Rising's not there. I mean, I don't know what play it was. It was real early on, must have been the 5th play, but it was in that first series, I think, when he got his leg rolled up underneath him and he's limping around. So you're already kind of like, all right, well, this guy doesn't look right. He's wearing the glove on the throwing hand. That's not good. I know he was taking a lot of those reps. And then they just kept looking over the sideline. The camera just kept being like, anyway, here's your QB2 in Isaac Wilson. And he was looking, fresh as a daisy, but they're not putting him in the game. I don't know what the situation is there. I wonder if there's a little bit something extra there, even with Isaac Wilson. Wondering if he's maybe not necessarily 100%. They made that decision halfway through the week to put him or to have Cam Rising take all those reps before they ended up hitting the road to Arizona. Steve Bartle came on our show this week and said, they immediately said, hey, he's going to be the guy, and they had him take all the reps before that or in that final walkthrough right before they got on the plane to go down to Tempe. But they looked absolutely terrible. And 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions for Cam Rising. He obviously wasn't just not himself. He just was, 43% completion. No, he 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So, Mekhi Bernard, this is a guy, we talk to him every week on our program, Mitch, and he was the lone bright spot. It wasn't just that he was in there and just he looked like he was fresh. He looked like he was popping. He looked like he was the one with the legs turning. What's shocking to me, and you brought it up last hour, was that defense, which is the signature, that calling card for these Kyle Whittingham teams and these Morgan Scalley defensive teams. they looked really, really bad, and they looked really young. As I really think that's what I'm seeing here is they're asking so much out of these freshman guys, but even guys like Lander Barton, who you're used to being these sure tacklers, Cam Scadaboo made that defense look really bad, and he was. I mean, you should the whole conference needs to be on notice with Cam Scadaboo. This guy has come relatively out of nowhere. I mean, he had a couple of 100-yard rushing games last year for this team, but guess what? No one cared because it was like, no, it's a bad Arizona State team. Cam Scadaboo is one of the better running backs in this league right now, and in a league that we did not think he was going to be even in the top 15. So it was the whole thing was a shock, and Arizona State beating Utah, and they're 5-1. It is an absolute shock right now in a year of a lot of shocks in the Big 12, right?
Yeah, no question. And the thing is, there was a stretch in the third quarter where Cam started to look good. He completed 4 consecutive passes. He hit Money Parks, I think, for a first down. Then he hit Dorian Singer. But outside of that, it was a lot of hit and miss. And there was a pass late where even the TV crew, Andre Ware, it was an attempted ball to Dorian Singer where it just didn't have any juice behind it, no velocity, and the footing on the field, like he couldn't get his base there to have that power. And Cam was a big liability at stretches for Utah to the point where I felt like you got to turn to Isaac Wilson, and it does pose an interesting thought of, is he nicked up? And they clearly have no trust in Brandon Rose or Heward at all. So it's a situation right now for Utah where, if Cam Rising is nowhere close to being what he once was, when he was taking down USC in the Pac-12 title game, do the wheels fall off on this Utah season? Because that was the hope, was that when Cam is at his best and when he's on that, or just being on that field, he just changes everything mentality-wise for Utah. But I thought the play calling was puzzling at times. I thought some of the Wildcat play calls with Keithy in the red zone were confusing.
It felt very desperate.
They had to settle for too many field goals, too. I mean, they had visits. How many times do we hear on the TV broadcast, this is the 7th time they've got inside the Arizona State 30? I mean, but it was a very telling stat of they had many chances, but they had to settle for field goals or late in the game. When Whittingham, it was about 9.5, 10 minutes to go, he goes for it on 4th down. Utah was saved because ASU made a puzzling 4th down decision on their own right, and Utah got the ball back, but still they couldn't convert, and they were nowhere close to the sticks when Money Parks went down on that 4th down. So it was just and I just think that maybe Utah was hyped up a bit too much, and they were not ready for this stage of playoff or bust and the clear-cut favorite in the Big 12 because they weren't ready for that stage.
What's interesting now is look at the schedule. You have a not very good TCU team that's coming into Salt Lake City. Then you go down to a not good Houston team. It should be a good stretch to be able to kind of get right. But I think really you have a couple of teams who are like, hey, man, we need to get right. And we're smelling blood. Everybody else in the conference who's not very good is able to get a couple wins. I mean, they lost to Arizona and then Arizona State. You did not have that on the bingo card going into this year. And Utah fans have obviously voiced their displeasure on this one, too.
TCU, though, can score points.
Yes.
And, that's the thing with them is TCU can put up numbers. So the way that Utah's offense is operating right now with Cam and what they did in Tempe, they'll lose to TCU.
Wow.
It's, because TCU, they're always good for a game where they can put up, 40, and you just hope it's not them. I don't think that would happen against Utah. But the way that Utah's defense is not tackling, I just, if they are not dialed in, because what's also, we haven't talked about this yet, they came back from a bye week. Utah is typically money out of a bye week after a loss, too, where, Whittingham puts the fear of life, like, this is a loss. Like, this, you have to almost reevaluate your life after a loss. And it just didn't really phase this team where they stumbled out of the gates in Tempe and looked pretty much like they did against Arizona 2 weeks prior.
All right. They're going to have to figure it out, and we're going to take another break here. We'll come back. We're going to listen to Kalani Sitake, his weekly dip in, and his post game. Kalani is trying to keep it together and act like everything is just I would just imagine him coming into those press conferences. And, Mitch, you're in those rooms, but we'll have to listen to Kalani and see how, on the one hand, they are absolutely flabbergasted. Well, they're not shocked by how they're performing, but Kalani and his reaction to that win over Arizona yesterday. You can take a listen next. We'll come back. More to go. It is 1st and 12, brought to you by Macy's Happy Shopping. It is the best local, freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your local favorite brands. Macy's Happy Shopping. We'll take that break. Mitch, Harper, Alex, Kirry, happy Sunday to you right here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone and on KSL News Radio.